So sadly, this isn't the first time that a story like this has crossed my attention. There was a social media influencer account like this that we'll probably break down in a different episode. But recently, the Australian radio network has been facing backlash over using an AI radio host modeled on an Asian woman. And the story is both predictable and kind of wild. So I'm reading here from a Media Week article. The Australian radio network ARN is facing backlash after revealing that Thy, a weekday hip-hop host on Sydney's CADA station, CADA, is an AI-generated persona modeled on an employee believed to be from the network's finance department. Created in partnership with overseas voice cloning giant 11 Labs, Thy has been broadcasting 4-hour segments on digital radio for approximately 6 months without any disclosure that she is artificial. Which begs the question, I guess we don't really listen to the host of the radio very much, do we? For 6 months, nobody noticed.
I got 2 questions about that.
Sure.
It said created in partnership with 11 Labs. Do they actually mean that 11 Labs was helping them, or do they just mean that they signed up for an account and cloned somebody's voice?
So the Australian Radio Network has an enterprise agreement with 11 Labs,
Right.
which I think any business can enter into. I think they just have like...
Yes, that doesn't mean much.
Yeah, so it's not really in partnership with them. It's an interesting choice of words by Media Week here.
Yeah.
But the person who found this out was journalist Stephanie Coombs, who put it in her newsletter, The Carpet, where someone had tipped her off that this didn't seem like a real person. She dug in deeper, and she found that this person, Thy, has just a single photo, no social media, no last name, no biography on the website. We can actually pull it up right here. This is Thy's page on the Cato website, and it says, hear it, love it. Every weekday from 11 a.m. to 3 while you're at work, driving around, doing the commute on public transport, or at uni, Thy will be playing you the hottest tracks from around the world, yada, yada, generic radio bio copy. But no, like, personal achievements, last name, social channels, or anything. And when you compare that against the other hosts here, that this Thy stands out as being fake.
Absolutely. So I remember when this first started breaking a few weeks ago and then trying to find clips of her. The only thing I could ever find is her just doing handoff from song to song and handoff from song to commercial. Yes. And I'm wondering if that should have been a tip-off. It's like, I've never heard like somebody's personality not come out that much in a 3 or 4 hour chunk of time.
Well, what's funny about that actually is Thy has the same shift I had when I first started in radio way back. Yeah. I did the work day, the afternoon drive. I did 11 to 7 instead of 11 to 3. But honestly, I'm not super surprised no one noticed, because the constraints that you operate in that environment are like, you get 7 seconds, only talk up songs. You want to hit like the broadest scope content in the like lightest way possible. And the longer I was there in the on-air side, the more and more they pushed to like have you say less and play more. So I'm from that standpoint of it, I can totally see how this would have gone by, and how this, in my mind, is just the first of what is going to be a trend of AI radio hosts, if my experience in radio is anything to go off of, which is the company I work for is not the one you're probably thinking of, listener. It's probably one that you don't know the name of. And I don't actually want to bash them. I had a pretty good time. It's probably the only one of the big radio companies I would ever consider working for again, because most of them are really bad. The industry of radio is really bad. And I mean, that's highlighted here. So back to Thy real quick, because I'll talk more about the specifics of the shift later. Thy is based on a real Australian Radio Network employee who, according to Coombs, works in their finance department. Media Week is aware of the name of the employee, but has chosen not to print it, which I think is an interesting sentence. Put a pin in that. They say, however, when the question of identity was posed to ARN, the company responded that, quote, it's not just her likeness being used. Thy is her name. It's her actual photo and her real voice that has been cloned. She's very much involved in this trial. If Thy is her actual name, I'm curious why Media Week included that sentence above it, that they've chosen not to print it.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're just talking about her last name.
Yeah, or like a nickname or something.
Yeah.
And despite several attempts, Media Week says that the company's yet to respond to a request for clarification on whether or not the finance employee was paid for her participation. But in a statement, ARN said they defended this whole experiment, stating, quote, we're always exploring how new technology can support great content and enhance the listener experience. As part of this, we've been trialing AI tools on CADA using the voice of Thy, an ARN team member. This is a space being explored by broadcasters globally, and while the trial has offered valuable insights, it's also reinforced the unique value that personalities bring to creating truly compelling content, which feels like having war flashbacks to the radio days. The only Well, Perry, you look like you have a thought about that.
I think for years we've been hearing some automated handoffs, right? So some computer-generated voices that have been doing handoffs here and there. So does this seem like a natural evolution of that in a more deceptive way?
So the problem in my mind is like there's a lack of disclosure. There's a lack of like if they compensated this person. But just to give some insight on what it's like being inside of radio, working this kind of a shift, honestly, most of the time you pop in and you do what is called voice tracking, where you record just the handoffs. You have this piece of software that's like a playlist, and there's little voice track sections. You insert them. Yep. You just hit play, do the talk up, you time how they overlap with each other. You can get a 8-hour show done in like an hour or two, especially when you're not really talking about much and just doing the handoffs.
Right.
Automating a morning show or a feature show would be kind of a different animal, but I'm not surprised at all that ARN is leaning towards AI to try and replace these sort of mid-shift hosts, because they've basically already been pushing the radio industry at large has already been pushing this sort of position to be more like an AI anyway, where you're just like, coming up, top of the hour, here's this song, and in 5 minutes, 3 reasons why eating cookies can make you divorced or whatever.
Right, yeah. It is literally just an admin position with a voice, right? So it's somebody that's just kind of acting in the most mundane way possible, shuffling stuff around, the radio equivalent of papers around, but they're talking into a microphone for part of that is part of their job.
And you don't like pick the music or anything. All that programming's been pre-decided for you. So it makes sense why they would automate this. Do I think it's a good idea? Not necessarily. Do I think it's a great idea to make a minority person out of AI instead of just hiring someone? Yeah. Absolutely not. That to me is like the really icky core of this. And
that's what I was wondering. It's like, we should it'd be great to have an Asian personality on there. Like, we got one of those down in finance.
Yeah, exactly.
Go grab her. We'll track her for a second, create a voice clone.
So the person that broke the story, Stephanie Coombs, wrote, ARN has a very white on-air lineup. How white? Well, I looked through the host lineup for KIIS, Gold, and CADA, ARN's 3 major radio brands, which broadcast around the country. Across 9 stations, it seems there's only one person who outwardly presents as diverse. That person is the AI person. So not great. Coombs goes on to ask, did one of the biggest FM radio companies in the country invent an Asian woman rather than hiring someone who is Asian? And it certainly seems that way. The only employee that's been directly linked is from this deleted LinkedIn post, Fayed Tome. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. He posted on LinkedIn, she drops hip-hop daily, sounds real, has fans, but she's AI. Thai's been hosting on CADA for months. No mic, no studio, just code and vibes. An experiment by ARN and 11 Labs that's pushing the boundaries of what live radio even means. Which is certainly a way to put it. I know the thing that everyone's probably been burning for is actually a sample to hear what this sounds like. And I have a compilation from a follow-up blog article from Stephanie Combs. So here's just a little clip, and the audio quality is bad. It's just talk-ups between songs, but you'll get the gist. And if you're someone who's familiar with AI voice, you'll probably clock it pretty quick.
Here's CADA's mystery mixtape thanks to Cyril every day at 8, 11, 2, and 4. It's worth $2,000, so make sure you register at cada.com.au. Anxiety. After the 2 p.m. news on CADA, you're going to hear Central C as well as new Calvin Harris. This is Crystal and the Days at CADA.
Also, the mix is awful. They didn't really duck the tracks very well.
But, the music under the voice does a lot of tricks to the mind to make it more passable. I would actually assume that if we ran some of that through a few of the deepfake detectors that I've tested, that would show as being real.
If it's muddled enough, buried enough in the mix there. Yeah, I could see that. But the thing is, the more you listen to it, and I tried to find a live stream because, believe it or not, checking this out, on the day this show comes out and all of the days before it preceding it, Thy is still on the air. So they haven't done anything in response to this.
She's not been riffed as part of this. That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, they also haven't addressed the problem at all. They just, I guess, have put out these couple statements and are hoping it's going to die, which is very emblematic of the way the radio industry seems to treat everything. They kind of ignore reality and just push forward. the website for CADA 2, I was looking through it and poking through just to see what I could find, and I found something very ironic right at the bottom of the page. At the bottom of Thy's bio page, under the CADA logo, it says, CADA acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia. We are an inclusive workplace embracing diversity in all its forms, which is just so obviously empty words because of their actions.
They embrace the robotic form.
Yeah, apparently.
I guess that is diversity if we're going back with the fact that AI at some point may have agency.
Yeah, I guess when most people say diversity, they don't mean diversity between meat and circuits, though.
I mean, these guys are ahead of their time.
Yeah, ahead and behind at the same time. There was a post that I want to share to wrap this segment up. I see our timer just ticked down.
Yeah.
Teresa Lim, the vice president of the Australian Association of Voice Actors, strongly condemns ARN's actions and had put up a post on LinkedIn that I thought was pretty good. So I'm going to read parts of it to you. Dear ARN, yesterday morning I received a phone call from Sam Buckingham-Jones at the Australian Financial Review with breaking news. You've been broadcasting an AI radio host daily on CADA for the past 6 months without public knowledge. That Weekdays with Thy was in reality an Asian lady from your finance department who agreed to have her voice cloned by 11 Labs and her image used for marketing. Nowhere on your network's website or program discloses Thy's AI origins or that she's text-to-speech voice. Nowhere is there any information available to confirm if Thy was compensated fairly or if she has any control over what her AI counterpart says on air every day from 11 to 3 weekdays. As an Asian Australian female human voice actor and presenter in the radio and advertising industry, I find this industry-first move offensive on various levels. And she goes into more, but I'll hit this one. ARN, did you actually think using Thy was a tick in the diversity box? Because for the very limited number of us actual Asian female broadcasters who have fought our entire careers for more wider and inclusive representation in Australian media, this move is tokenistic and exploitative. Because Thy is not a broadcaster, she works in finance and likely doesn't even have an agent to tell her how much her voice cloning is worth. Did you pay her industry rates for this? Does she understand ongoing risks of handing over her voice data to 11 Labs for voice cloning? This is a decision I find so deeply insulting to the minority I represent in our Australian media. The way to work forward with AI and radio broadcasting urgently requires explicit AI labeling laws to prevent this level of deception. We need transparency in the use and creation of AI material. The Australian public deserve to be able to trust what we hear on air. And please speak to us minority groups if you want to fairly represent us, okay? And I think everything in that is fair. And I can say from my own experience in radio, again, I'm not bashing the company I worked for. They were like the only one that I still like. This is a logical progression because like money has been going down the tubes in that industry for a long time.
Right.
When these shifts are just talk-ups and these little handoffs, like they've been doing everything shy of this up until now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of this in the future. I remember during COVID, I watched a lot of part-time jobs and sort of a lot of people get let go, and those never came back even after things bounced back. And the push to more and more automation has just sort of been the story of radio. And all of that culminated in the other day. I was on 11 Labs, and I found one of my colleagues' voices from back in the day.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did they do it voluntarily?
Oh yeah. The person.
So it's in their marketplace.
Yeah. They cloned their voice and put it up in the marketplace, and it makes sense that particular colleague is pretty like tech forward and sort of savvy with that. But it was still sort of a shock when I saw that name in the library, and it's like, wait.
Yeah.
But
you should have had that voice read the last letter that you read.
I should have. I actually used that voice in the AI campaign we did with the NCA. One of the voices is my colleague. Anyway, don't fake diversity with AI. That sucks.